Well, we made it. It's the end of the fantasy football season.
Just pick, Taco. Come on.
Fine. Darren Sproles.
Darren Sproles. Good pick. Great
Darren
job.
Sproles, no.
So this is the video that I have been threatening to do for weeks now, which is where I break down what happened in my fantasy football league this year, my very first year playing. I'm taking this video seriously, you guys. I have a spreadsheet of everything that happened. It's color-coded. What more can you want? So for draft day, I did not know the rules of football. It sounds stupid, but I just didn't know how it was played. But what I did have is a lot of free time and unearned arrogance. I did so much training leading up to this draft day. I was listening to podcasts. I was reading different guides. Anywhere there were ideas about draft day, I was in there. So by draft day, I had a strategy and god damn it, I was gonna make it work. When picking out the name for my fantasy football team, I wanted something very clever, but I also wanted to pay homage to my Seahawks. Now, everyone wants to do their team names based on like Russell Wilson. Okay, yeah, fine. But I wanted to go with something a little different, and I always kind of liked Tyler Lockett. You know, he's kind of a smaller guy, he's a little scrappy, but he's really consistent on the Seahawks, and he's been on the team for several years. So I had to pick Tyler Lockett to use in my pun. And I came up with Lockett Full of Sunshine.
I got a bucket full of sunshine.
When all was said and done, my draft day team broke down as such. At quarterback, Josh Allen. At running back, Saquon Barkley, Chris Carson, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Alexander Madison, and Tony Pollard. At wide receiver, Tyler Lockett, Jarvis Landry, Darius Slayton, Curtis Samuel, and Alan Lazard. And bringing up the rear at tight end, Jared Cook and George Kittle. Our ESPN league ranked my draft as the number 4 overall. What could go wrong? Week 1 got off to a really smooth start. I won my first matchup. This was such a huge deal for me. I won! Week 2, things went off the rails a little bit. George Kittle had gotten injured in week 1, so he was out. That was my number 2 pick. And then during the first play of the second quarter, Saquon Barkley, my number 1 pick, tore his ACL and got me only 2.6 points for that game. By week 3, I really had a lot to overcome. I had 2 major gaps in my lineup that I had to fill, but you know what? I did it. Week 5 just didn't go that great for me. Everyone kind of underperformed. Week 6 sucked. Although I did get 95.88 points in that game. Unfortunately, I was up against my husband with his incredibly good team, who scored 138.74 points. Good effort, not good enough. Week 7, I was back, baby. That's the week Tyler Lockett got me 53 fantasy points. It was glorious. I was practically sobbing at the television, watching him just score touchdown after touchdown. That's my boy right there. But you know what they say about people who fly too close to the sun. Week 8 is where it all started to fall apart. I had 96.82 points. Unfortunately, my opponent got over 170 points. Thanks, Dalvin Cook. Thanks a lot. From then on, it was just more of the same. But I still thought there might be a way for me to come back. If I just pieced things together in just the right way, if I managed to find just the right waiver pickup, I was gonna be able to make it work. I just had to have things fall into place. But that never happened. It just got worse, and it never got any better. Week 8, man. Week 8 is where it all started to go wrong. Myles Gaskin's still injured. I had Philip Lindsay at one point. Oh yeah, there was that time I tried to play DJ Dallas. Picked up Tua. I think maybe that was gonna save me. That didn't work out. Tried it out with Robert Tonyan. Picked up Jerry Jeudy for a minute. Chris Carson injured again. 3 Splendus, please. And at some point during all of this, Justin Herbert decided to get a haircut. Week 12 was Thanksgiving. You know, Thanksgiving is supposed to be a time of togetherness and love from your family. I was playing my own husband in week 12, and he still had the gall to beat me by 15 points overall. Antonio Gibson gave it his best shot, 36 points, something like that. Darius Slayton. Goose egg. And by week 13, last week of the season, I knew it was over. God damn it, I kept playing anyway. I was out of the playoffs, and at this point, a lot of people would just kind of give up on their lineups and say, but not me. Not me. And the beauty of it was, at this point, I could try anything I wanted because I was 11th in a 12-team league. And you know what happened to me in the fantasy playoffs? When I was down there in the consolation bracket, I won every single week on that consolation ladder. And I crawled my way from 11th all the way up to 9th. But at least I tried. At least I was able to love fantasy again. And in week 16, miracle of miracles, after 7 weeks on injured reserve, Kittle came back.
Into the end zone, caught. Touchdown, Kittle.
Everyone really came together in those last 4 weeks when it didn't matter anymore. You know, like when they put in Rudy. Does that happen in Rudy? I've never actually seen it. I mean, I picked up Nelson Aguilar for week 17. Let me say that again because I fudged it. Maybe I shouldn't have actually drank the scotch. So what the hell happened? Let's take this bit by bit, shall we? First off, I would like to introduce to you my burn book. This is a concept blatantly stolen from the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast, but you know what? It works great for them, so I'm going to use it for my own purposes. The inaugural entry to the burn book is Darius Slayton. In week 1, Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton scored 28.2 points. Of course, he was on my bench in week 1 because I didn't know if I could trust him. And then after that, he proceeded to get 6.3, 6.3, 7.8, and 11.8 before I finally benched him for poor performance. In week 12, he got me 0 points. And once you get 0 points on my active roster, you're in the burn book for life. Bye, Darius Slayton. It was nice knowing you. I'm sure he's actually a very nice boy. My other entry for the burn book is Rams rookie running back Cam Akers. Cam Akers, you were my number 5 draft pick. I listened to all the hype. I had such high hopes.
You were the chosen one!
So this one wasn't so much my fault as it was head coach Sean McVay's fault. But we all had really high hopes for Cam Akers. We thought he was going to be the lead running back. And you know what? They just stuck to Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown for the first couple of weeks. And then it's just a nice cherry on top. He decided to attack me personally by running for 130 yards and scoring a touchdown against my beloved Seahawks, effectively knocking them out of the playoffs. Goodbye, Cam Akers. You are in my burn book. Another bonus entry into the burn book here, Eagles head coach Doug Peterson. Eagles, what are you doing? What? I mean, I'm baffled with what happened there. Travis Fulgham was doing incredibly well on the Eagles, and what happens when Jalen Reagor comes back? They bench him? Just like, okay. This boy tried to show you that he was really something. Now, I actually looked this up, and despite the fact that he only really played in about 5 games, he was still number 1 in receiving yards for the Eagles overall for the whole season. 5 games, and he was number 1 in receiving yards. And he got those yards with Carson Wentz under center. This is before the whole Jalen Hurts fiasco. Eagles fans, I hope you get where I'm coming from here. Future Chrissy here. 2 days after filming this, the Eagles fired head coach Doug Peterson. Another major problem I had was injuries. I mentioned earlier that my number 1 and number 2 draft picks were both out for extended periods with injuries. I want to talk about how serious that was for my roster. Now, we don't do salary cap type leagues, but I did want to include the Ringer Fantasy Draft Guide here just to show you how incredibly valuable Saquon Barkley was, and I got to use him for a game and a half. You know what my husband got with his first round pick? Derrick Henry. And then my number 2 pick. I went down and picked up one of the 2 top tight ends. And throughout the season, George Kittle was only able to play 6 out of the 13 regular season games. Less than half. The last problem I had was my schedule. It just straight up sucked. Look at the total points I scored. And look at the points scored against me. I think that tells you all you need to know. You might be asking why I seem to love fantasy football so much when I've just spent the last X number of minutes talking about how terrible my team was and how devastating it was to lose. And despite not really knowing how football was played when I got started, and definitely not knowing who any of the players were, I mean, I had a vague sense there was some guy named Patrick Mahomes, and I was pretty sure Tom Brady hadn't retired yet. But I started to get really attached to some of the players on my team. I started to think of them as friends in my head. So let's start with Josh Allen. Throughout the first half of the season when I was playing him, he got me 23.87 points per game on average. That's really, really solid. And what he's doing in the playoffs right now with the Bills is very impressive. So I'm proud of my boy. Early in the season, I had the opportunity to pick up Chargers rookie quarterback Justin Herbert. Herbert only ended up as the starting quarterback because Tyrod Taylor inadvertently had his lung punctured by the Chargers doctor moments before kickoff. Justin Herbert, rookie quarterback, comes in week 2. Literally, it was between the coin toss and kickoff. He finds out he's gonna be starting. And what does he do? He goes out there and crushes it. I just felt so proud. And despite the rest of my players not really performing very well, Justin Herbert, incredibly consistent for me. 20.76 points per game overall. That's my boy, Justin Herbert. Another player I got a little attached to, Cole Beasley. I'm just a sucker for any NFL player that's still playing at over 30. And if they're smaller, like if they're short, I just like that even more. I think you can see there's a little bit of an underdog narrative happening here. Also, gotta love another redhead. Allen Lazard, I have no idea why I love Allen Lazard. He was on injured reserve most of the season, but the couple of times he played, he did really, really well. I just think he's great. Look at that smile. And then of course, how could I not love my Tyler Lockett? Tyler Lockett has been on the Seahawks for 5 years. He's Russell Wilson's favorite. And this season, he got 100 receptions in the season, which is a franchise first. I just want to give it up for my boy Tyler Lockett. He had a couple of down weeks, but that's just how it goes. Let's not forget, in week 7, he got me 53 points. That was also the last game I won. So going into 2021, what did I learn? I got really lured in by this advice of drafting handcuffs. I picked up Alexander Madison for Dalvin Cook. That never ended up panning out. And I picked up Tony Pollard, who had one great game very late in the season, well after I dropped him. So I may have over-relied on that advice. I may have gotten a little overzealous on the waiver wire. Some of that was not my fault. I had a lot of holes in my lineup to fill, but I did get a little too attracted to the shiny objects. Also, despite how much I loved some of these players, I learned not to get attached. I actually traded away Josh Allen, my sweet baby Josh Allen, but I traded him away for Robbie Anderson because I needed a consistent wide receiver. And at that point, I had Justin Herbert, who was outperforming him anyways. I really regretted giving up Josh Allen, but only from an emotional standpoint. And I have to remember, he's not my actual friend. He's just my friend in my heart. So I don't have to worry about hurting his feelings. But pretty much I learned going through all of this, yeah, no, none of this was my fault. It was all the schedule and the injuries. Fantasy football can be really fun, even if you've never played before. I'd encourage anyone to try it out if they've never done it before. Even if you don't know anything about football, you don't know how it's played. It's been a really tough quarantine on a lot of us, and it's really good to have hobbies. And this one has been mine, and it's been just a blast. This was also a way for me to connect with my friends who I'm not getting to see nowadays. And it was something I was able to do with my husband every week. That was an activity we were able to enjoy together. I also really encourage women to try playing fantasy football. It's a pretty male-dominated hobby, but really there's a low barrier for entry, so I don't want you to be scared of trying it out. You don't have to do what I did and study every draft guide. They usually make it pretty easy for you. And you know who won our league? My husband, which by the order of succession makes me the queen consort.
Not acknowledged by the league.
Thank you so much for watching. If you actually watched this video all the way through, I applaud you. Let's be honest, this video was a little more for me than imparting any real advice onto the masses, but I just had so much fun playing fantasy football this year, and I really wanted to do kind of a deconstruction of everything that happened this season. And when draft day 2021 comes around, future Chrissy, I hope you're watching this video and remembering the heartbreak and all the lessons you learned. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. Bye! Aw, yeah, that's dumb. I am not including that.